Hello people, you're welcome to ProUp Masterclass. My name is Tola Alabi. In today's class, we're going to be talking about how to charge for logo design. So this is the 20th episode of ProUp Masterclass, and I just want to thank everyone that has been part of the journey so far. I want to thank everyone that has taken their time to subscribe to the channel, everyone that has watched the video, and anyone that has dropped a comment. From this 20th episode, I'll be addressing the most popular questions I get from designers. So I would encourage you to send me your questions. If you have any pressing questions you want us to discuss in this class, we're going to be taking the next few episodes to address those questions. So your questions are going to form our syllabus for the masterclass. So please send your question, email your questions to me at proupmasterclass@gmail.com. So we'll be starting off this class of answering questions with our topic for today, which is how much should you charge for a logo? If I had 100 naira for every time a designer asked me that question, I probably won't need to work anymore for the rest of my life. I guess I get asked that question almost every day. It's a really, I won't say it's a technical question. It's a really simple question, but I think people really expect to have a one-size-fits-all kind of answer, and that's something you will never get from asking this question. Because a lot of people ask, how much do you charge? And so that they can adopt your own fees for their clients, but it can never work that way because it's a creative process, and each person's creative process is pretty different. In this class, I'm going to be telling you how I come up with my price, and you can use it and can help you to come up with a price of yours. As I said, it's not about the quality of work you do or how much experience you've had. I've had people that are less experienced than I am in the industry, and they charge way more than I do. I have people that are more talented, more experienced than I am, and they charge less than I do. So it is not a one-size-fits-all. So I hope by the end of this class, you'll be able to figure out what your price is for logo design. I'm going to start off by telling you a story, an experience I had with a gentleman I met a few weeks ago. I met this guy. He told me he was a designer. He told me he used to be a designer and is no longer a designer, and that caught my attention. And I asked him, why aren't you practicing design anymore? And he told me because he wasn't getting paid enough to be a designer. And I asked him, how long was he a designer for? He told me for about 2 years. And that made me ask him, in that span of 2 years, are you telling him that you never got anyone to pay you a fee that you were comfortable with? And he told me there was only one client that he enjoyed working with, and that he felt paid him what he was comfortable with and made him happy. This client approached him and asked him how much he would do some branding for him, and he told him what his fee was. He told the client it was going to take about 2 weeks, and client agreed and said that was fine by him. He was going to pay him and to do the job and give him a duration of 2 weeks, but he was going to lodge him in a hotel and pay for his feeding and make sure he had internet access and steady power supply. He wanted him to concentrate on the project, on the branding project he was doing for him. I asked him how did that go, and he said that was the best project he had ever done in his life as a graphic designer. And I said, was the client happy with the result? He said, yeah, the client was very happy. He was happy with it, and it was really creative work he ended up doing for the client. And he said after that, he never had any client do that for him. And I can understand. I've never had a client do that for me ever. And that's something I don't think a lot of us would ever experience. That brings me to my point. A lot of times when we try to come up with fees for design, for logo design, we tend as creatives to focus on the work itself, on the creative work itself, on how much it would cost to do that thing called a logo. So we charge for the graphics, we charge for what we do. And a lot of time we are blindsided by the fact that there are a lot of things that need to be put in place for us to be creative, and we do not charge for those things. In the example I gave with this man I met, the client basically was paying him not to think about feeding, think about internet access, think about power supply. The client wanted him to solely focus on getting the job done. So the client was actually paying him to get all these other things off his mind. So we must think about those things that go into creating that creative environment, and we must factor that into our price. That's what I do when I try to come up with a price for logo design. I think a lot of us try to come up with some arbitrary figure and just think, oh, I think 50,000 will be okay, I think 100,000 will be okay, I think 200,000 will be okay, but you really cannot justify that price. So at the end, you're either charging too much or charging too little. And the problem with charging too little is the fact that when you start the work, you begin to feel like you've been given the shorter end of the stick to pick. And if you're charging too much, you have this guilt trip that you really do not deserve what you want because you cannot justify your price. So what I'm going to be talking about right now is how to charge for those things that build up a creative environment for you, because those things are just as important, if not more important, than the creative work you are doing. What I do is I think about those things. What are those things that I need as a designer that to make my environment creative? I think there are some basic needs. I think the first basic need is that I need to be alive. I need to feed. So if I'm working on a logo, I think of it that how long is it going to take? I'm giving 14 days, 2 weeks, a month, and I think I need to feed for these 2 weeks. Now, I don't want to be working on a logo and be thinking of what would I eat? How would I afford lunch? How would I afford breakfast? So I need to know what it's going to cost for me to feed in that span of 2 weeks. And that's going to be factored into my price. So if I'm going to say it's 1,000 naira to feed for 2 weeks of doing that project, I don't want to think about how I'm going to feed. I'm going to put that in the bill. So that's 1,000 naira. I'm going to think of power supply. Now, power supply is a big issue, especially here in Nigeria. And I'm going to think of how much it will take to run my generator. And you always have to assume that there isn't going to be any power. So I'm going to think of how much it's going to take to run my generator for that span of 2 weeks. Let's assume that there is no power at all. There's power, and you might feel like that might be a bit unfair because there might be power for the whole 2 weeks. But the truth of the matter is, what if there isn't? What if the transformer in your area blew up and there was no power for 2 weeks? The client will still want his work at the end of that period you stated to the client. So you must plan for the worst case scenario and put that in. How much will it take to fuel my gen to get that done? And I put that. If there's another 1,000 naira, I put that in there. And that makes 2,000 naira. So I'm slowly building up my rates. I also think I need internet access. I need good, fast internet access. How much is it going to cost for me to afford that, to do my research and look up things and communicate with the client and send files and things like that? How much is that going to cost me for that period of time? I put that in there. I add that to it. If that's 2,000 naira, I put that in there. And then I'm already building my cost is already 4,000 naira. I think of other things that I might need. Rest, relaxation. How do I relax? How do I get inspired? I buy books. I buy magazines. There was a time I used to buy a particular magazine every week just to get inspiration. And I use that inspiration to better service my client. So if that is something I use for inspiration, I feel I put that in there. The cost of the magazine to get that too goes in there. If what inspires you is going to the movies once a week, that's cool. You have to be able to put that in there because it's all part of creating that creative, enabling environment that allows you to do a good work in the first place. So I put that in there also. So the bottom line is you need to be able to consider those things that allow you to be creative. You must cater for them. You must consider them. Those things around you that go into your creative process. So if you have someone that's working with you, you have someone that is interning with you, someone that is staff that is working with you, you must be able to put that, how much do I pay this person per week? How much would I pay him for this amount of 2 weeks or whatever time you stipulated to the client? And you must be able to put that in your bill. So you've built up what it takes for you to be creative. That's part of your bill. After which, you now go and charge for the work itself. Now, this is where most of us start. We charge for the work itself without charging for what it takes for you to be creative. But when you've done the billing for what it takes for you to create it, then you can now go on to charge for how much you think it will take you to do this work. How much work goes into it for you? What is the value of that logo for you? For the work itself, the hours you are putting in. Now you can now charge for that and add that to what you already have for the fees of creating that creative, conducive environment for you. Now, when you've now done that, you can now go ahead. The last thing you're going to add to your fees is your profit. You must now, because all these things you've laid down are not your profit, they just allow you to do the work. Now you must think of, now what are you going to get from this work? What is your profit? And you can think about it. You can think about your profit this way. That is what goes back into your business. So you might think, at the end of the year, I want to buy 2 more laptops. I want to rent an office space. Now you think about it. How much do I need to put aside each month for me to end up with these 2 laptops I want to get at the end of the year? So if you can come up with a figure for that, and you say, if I add this by the end of the month, I should be able to get this, then you put that into your billing too. What you're meant to get at the end of the month, if you are putting that as that now becomes your profit at the end of the day. So you must be able to add your profit to what goes into your creative work, the creative work you are doing. Then you must be able to add what it takes for you, those things that help you to be creative, that creative environment. When you add these 3 figures together, you should be able to come up with a decent price for you to charge for a logo. And that's why I do not think you can charge 2,000. I don't just think 2,000 naira can work. If you look at all these things I've put in place, you can't charge 2,000 naira. You can't charge 5,000 naira. You can't charge 10,000 naira doing logo design as a job to maintain a particular lifestyle. Then you would have to follow this process that I've told you. So think about it. To come up with your price for your logo, you have to think of what goes into creating a creative environment for yourself, what goes into doing the technical work, the grunt work of creating the logo, and what's your profit. And when you add all these things together, you'll be able to come up with a decent fee that makes you happy at the end of the day. So I do hope you've gotten a lot from this class. I hope this class helps you to be able to come up with your own personalized rate for your business when it comes to logo design. Remember, nothing I've said today is written in stone. The circumstances could change, and you could get approached by a real big influential brand, and in that kind of circumstance, you might not have to use the formula I've given you right now to come up with a rate. You might just have to judge by how big you feel an asset this logo is to that brand. But more often than not, we get approached by brands we do not know, people that just have new ideas, good ideas, startups that do not even know they're going to be big brands in the future. So how do you now charge these people? You have to charge a rate that makes you happy. So even if the brand goes ahead to be a big brand, you are still happy that you got something that made you happy and was an investment towards your own business. I really hope you've enjoyed this class. If you have any questions, feel free to leave your comments. Remember to send your questions to ProUp Masterclass if you have a topic you want us to discuss in our next episode. I'd like to encourage you to subscribe to our channel if you haven't, and to also share the video. I'll see you in the next class.